Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. An interesting subject today that we will discuss. They say it takes two to tango. What happens when there are three? In our case, in India, there are three. There's India, there's Pakistan, and then there is, of course, China. What happens when these three try and tango at the same time? To discuss this very interesting subject and very interesting paradigm of the India's neighborhood, if I may, I have with me Lieutenant General PG Kamath. Sir, hello and welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Aadi.
Firstly, sir, it's an honor to actually have you, and I keep reading your articles on LinkedIn. They're very informative. It's something that we don't get with a lot of other writings. It's very crisp, clear, and to the point. So my compliments on that. And of course, this discussion has also been picked up from an article that you had written, which we will discuss in the course of the show, sir. But let's begin with Pakistan itself, sir. The arrogance of Pakistan is something that I want to talk about right to begin with. We see that it still has this larger than life importance. Ki bhai, without Pakistan, nothing can happen. Uh, Nothing can move. If there is a visit to India of any sort, Pakistan must be visited. The kind of narratives that we see within the media and the leadership. I mean, media is okay, but we see that arrogance from the leadership. My question to you is very simple, sir. Hasn't reality actually set into these Pakistanis where they stand in the world?
Yes, Aadi. Before that, I'll just give a bit prelude.
So,
I feel exactly between India, Pakistan, and China. All of us are, all three countries, including India, my country, our country, is doing a bit of shadow boxing. We are not catching the bull by its horns. We are absolutely doing the deep state is managing the policies. There is a status quoist mentality. No one is trying to come out of the status quo and deep state and find another avenue of approaching these three relations. Why I say that? You should ask me. Firstly, let's take Pakistan. Both Imran Khan and later Bilawal Bhutto says he will not talk to India unless Article 370, which was revoked, is invoked. Special relations of J&K, which was happened in 1949 and revoked in about 2 years back. They wanted to be again invoked. Then tell me, who the hell is going to talk to you, and why should we talk to you? How important you are? Are we waiting for you to talk and we become venerated because you talk to me? He wants us to take the clock back to 1949 and then give a special relationship to J&K again, when it itself has bifurcated the PAT occupied Kashmir into northern areas and POK, or they call it Azad Kashmir, in 1970. And these northern areas were named later in 2000 something into Gilgit Baltistan. You yourself have done it much earlier, and when we do it and when we revoke Article 370, it tells we will not talk, means it is never going to happen, that we will never talk to Pakistan. Nothing is lost from our side. Now let's take China. China says, okay, it has it has actually violated all the agreements, and then came and sat in Ladakh in the western. And we say, okay, you disengage and then we'll talk to you. China says the border is stable. We have occupied, so be it. In Depsang, other places I have vacated, Depsang and Demchot, we are stable borders, so we can talk. India says no, till the time the disengagement is over, we will not talk to you. But it doesn't affect China. Adi, it doesn't affect China. You say normal relations are not there, but actually, normal relations, you are giving them a favorable trade balance annually, $100 billion. Does it hurt? They are very, very happy as far as the trade comes, and you say, in your innuendos, will not talk to, no, relations are not normal. It doesn't matter to them. So neither India is going to cross, nor China is happy with the present status quo. Pakistan is not ready to talk, and it's happy for them. And just you see, we all three are shadow boxing, not taking the bull by its horns to do or upset anything which we are doing. Now, coming to your questions. The part Pakistan sadly suffers from two things: a unfounded pride and uncalled for arrogance. What is there to be though every countryman should be proud of his country, but what is there to be proud in Pakistan? You tell me. The Indian Muslims, as you say, fought for Pakistan as a Muslim state, and the wiser ones remained in a secular India, and they are actually enjoying whatever the democracy in its fullest extent. Now let's take Pakistan. You know the politically chaotic, economically, $126 billion external debt. 35% of its GDP is external debt. Out of that, 30% is owed to China. And there is about 10 odd billion dollars short term loans which have been taken from private entities at a very high interest. Corruption at the highest level, food inflation from April 22 to April 23 is 48.1% food inflation. You have seen people running after the trucks which are carrying atta and all. Flood in 2022 has really damaged $30 billion in losses and $16 billion more for reconstruction. 18 to 2022, we had Imran Khan's Pakistani Tehreek-e-Insaf. 22 it has gone, and in October there was floods. Look at the damage. Economically, the country has become very unviable. The total foreign exchange reserve as on yesterday was $3.6 billion only. A total. And now what makes Pakistan arrogant? You tell me. What is there to have arrogance in them? But let me deal it from the Pakistani side also. I don't want to always criticize. I'll take the strength of Pakistan as well. For some reason, they should also. Every countryman has to have pride in his country. Geostrategic location, no one can deny that to Pakistan. Linking the Middle East with South Asia and Central Asian Republic. A strategic adjunct, but it has been considerably reduced once US has lost interest in Afghanistan. The entire geostrategic, though it is there, but it is not able to yield dividends out of it at this point in time because US is really not bothered with Afghanistan. Okay, then it is a gateway to Afghanistan, as I told you, and also important river systems. One of the most fertile areas, notwithstanding 2022 floods, please forget it. But what is more important, what is the strength of Pakistan? Now I'll tell you. It is the ability to wage a proxy war. Yeah, let us give it to them. They do have an ability to wage a proxy war with whichever country they want, especially with India. They have got, and also they have got some support of the OIC, due to which in the G20 tourism, what you call, meeting which we had in Srinagar, Egypt opted out, Oman opted out, then Turkey opted out. Yeah, some countries opted out, but though 27 countries with the 57 delegates attended, out of G20, only China did not attend. So far, nothing is lost. Okay. So they do have what you call nuisance value, which is to be their great, which they should capitalize their strength in order to increase the importance of their country.
Hmm. Hmm.
Now, why is Pakistan really not able to call it soft? It has been founded on a religion, isn't it, Adi? If it is founded the very basis is of religion, the entire 55 Islamic countries should have formed the one caliphate. It did not. Each are separate. So the religion as a basis of a nationhood of a particular country is absolutely false, and it has been proved that these two, the one country became two country in 1971 with Bangladesh, another Islamic nation, seceding from Pakistan. Agreed? So, yeah, the very basis of a nationhood should be its values, its culture, its
Hmm.
tradition, its history. Huh? Yeah, these all and its pride, all this has to be built up out of its geography. Built, then you build a nation which will uphold certain values. Now, what is the foundation of Pakistan? Hatred towards India, hostility towards India. With a hatred as a basis of your foundation, how can that country progress?
Anti, you can't be pro something when you're anti something.
It is completely anti. Second, you take in the history all the prime ministers, once they take the oath to be a prime minister, they come out and a vitriolic hatred towards India and J&K is raised, and then they are actually consecrated, that now you have taken the oath and now you are actually the what you call sanctified to be the prime minister, because oath you have taken and you have exhibited your hatred towards India. These two qualify you to rule the Pakistan later. So if you so with this, due to this, in spite of its dismemberment, defeat, bankruptcy in economy, climate of political collapse, what has happened you have seen with Imran Khan's 9th May incident, where they attacked the army headquarters and the Lahore Corps Commander's office. Then we suddenly found the army came in. He got isolated. Imran was isolated, waiting, probably waiting for his court martial under the army leadership. So it's geographically superiors. Baluchistan, Sindhustan, Sindhu Desh. There is a Sindhu Desh Liberation Army. There is a Baluchistan Liberation Army, and all this arrogance is pushing them towards doom without the realization of their state of their country, and in putting the nationhood before the religion, unless they are able to do it. I think that what you call sunrise in Pakistan will take some time longer.
If I may, sir, sorry, but a small comment on what you said in the last, sunrise may take a
Certainly.
little time longer. May I say you're being very generous towards Pakistan, sir?
Yes, I have been generous because I want to give everything to the enemy. I do
Sir,
not want to put the enemy so down that we Indians forget its strength. We have to give some credibility. You are right. I want to just not rubbish them out.
sir.
Give the value to them, and then we'll plan better.
So the internal turmoil that happens in Pakistan, and may I just dig a little deeper into this question? The Imran Khan factor, as you mentioned, the half the country is jumping around. By Imran Khan ko laga do prime minister, everything will become okay. As if he got a magic wand, he just can Pakistan will suddenly improve. The internal turmoil, as per se, shows a certain level of immaturity, and if nothing else, you see that immaturity within the political class, of course, who's rejoicing regression happening on its opponents, which used to happen on them. They're enjoying it, and when you go back into history, the other guys also used to enjoy it. And of course, the army is acting like the army. So what is the impression that is going to the world today, sir? Because previously, whenever they did all this stuff, the world didn't get to know. Only very few people came to know. There was no social media. What's the impression going on today?
See, Adi, Imran Khan, and all the time from 2018 to 2022, April, till the time he was sacked a year back, he had all the time to improve the economy.
Hmm.
Anyway, he left it at the right time. And then further, whatever collapse, it was collapsing. At that time, he left and the collapse started. Because October 22, soon after he left, 4 or 5 months, the flood started. When the flood started, the entire whatever economy, the food and all sustained, the food was sustained, that entire thing gone for a six. So with this, and also let us give to Imran Khan, is a charismatic leader, a cricketer. What all said and done, there was a large following. Once he was arrested in the Islamabad High Court, breaking the glass, the Rangers arrested him.
Hmm.
Huh? And that too, it was actually not much. If you are really asking, his main charges are that whatever gifts he got, he sold it and made some money. Like that, Nawaz Sharif was there in Panama Papers. Huh? And now, when he was what you call no confidence motion was passed in April 22. There was a what you call, and a year later, you know that what happened. He started what he called is Hakiki Azadi, an agitation. Hakiki Azadi, where everyone they attacked, as I told you before, on the May 9th. There was attack on the Corps headquarters of the Corps Commander's office house at Lahore, and the entire thing, thousands and lakhs poured in, and it became a agitationist, unable to control. But one thing I want to give some credit to the Pakistani army. They did not intervene even when what you call they allowed the police and paramilitary to take action. They did not. They did not fire or take action in order to kill the civilians. That is one thing you have to. If that had happened, it would have been a very, very sad day. And the amount of restraint which the Pakistan army exercised when their own army headquarters was attacked by the PTI goons is, I think, we need to give a bit of appreciation for not really using their weapons. Then come to the other hand. If Trump, a democratic country, the world's biggest democracy, enlightened democracy, can organize Capitol Hill riots, if Imran Khan does his own Capitol Hill riots, there is some whatever. There is a way mass movement, mass uproar, the mass emotions have been channelized into the chaotic. This one it looks a bit. I am not justifying it. Appears the international trend is taking place that way. Now coming to, Armin quietly worked on it. Army did not do. Once he was thrown out of place, within a year they started isolating him. All PTI leaders, one after the others, deserted. This was all maneuvered by the army. He was placed by the army in 2018. He was removed by the army in 2022. And when he found that he has got a bigger image than the army due to the masses which came in his support, he got a bit wrong impression that he is able to control the army and army is not able to control his followers. That impression which he got was wrong. So the India and no, tell me one thing, Yadi, who wants to take over Pakistan in this in this economic shambles?
Absolutely.
No sane person, least so General Munir, would ever want to take over a country which is sliding down at the rate of 32 feet per second into the nadir of economic depression. Who would want to take over? So he is the general is very right. He doesn't want to take over. He wants this entire doom to be brought in by these politicians only. And in some point of time, he will see whether I should do after visiting all places, taking Saudi Arabia, Iran, Turkey, US, taking all their support and getting some money and finances, and then he won't do it now. So you would let the politicians to what you call be in their stew in their own juices at this point in time. But the chaos, the political uprising has been stopped. Now, Bulawal Bhutto, I told you, has got a great sense of humor that he will not talk to India. Who wants to talk to you, Mr. Bilawal Bhutto? Who in the world is inviting you now? You have Saudi Arabia, many of your leaders have come, they have given their bit to you. Turkey has done whatever little it can in spite of its earthquake. Now, IMF has done what it can. China, they are giving you loans after loan and rolling over your loans. Nothing. They are rolling over the prepayment of loans and $1.3 billion for the second tranche, which is being what you call IMF is not yet considered. China is trying to give a bailout because they within next 2 weeks they will not have even foreign exchange. If the food and supplies or some ration or something comes, now the present Russian crude oil has come. Russian crude oil is being paid from Chinese currencies, by the way. Chinese currency is being paid to Russia. So if you really ask, there is no one at this point in time would ever invite the Pakistan Prime Minister or Pakistan Foreign Minister or anyone as a guest to India because India is already having a very
Sir, I lost you.
sorry.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
No worries. You were saying, sir, nobody in their right mind would invite the Pakistani foreign minister and got cut. So we can just start off there.
no, nobody in their right frame of mind in this entire world, including the 50 odd Islamic countries, would ever invite the Pakistani Prime Minister or Pakistani Foreign Minister. The fear is that if they come, they will ask for loan and bailout. So who wants? USA doesn't want you. Russia is selling you crude oil in spite of you giving ammunition to Ukraine because it is in a state it doesn't mind selling the crude oil to you. Who else wants to talk? Please let me know, Mr. Bilawal Bhutto and the Prime Minister, who will invite you and who would like to talk to you. So if you don't talk to India, it's your own loss. So I think the world as such has realized, even China due to our hostility with India, it is telling deeper than ocean and higher than mountains, whatever the relationship they have. Now, after that entire what you call CPEC has come almost to a very grinding halt. The investment is going down day by day. Rather, year month by month, it is going down. So I don't think even China would like to keep you at a arm's length till the time you are able to do some repayment to their loans. So I don't think the last if they you'll be very happy if they give you the last 1.3 billion dollar which they have promised. Otherwise, Pakistan may come to a grinding halt.
Wow, that's a heavy one, sir. The I really liked one thing that you said, that here is a country that really, and I'm paraphrasing what you said, but here is a country that has nothing but wants everything. So,
Exactly.
that's. I mean, a
Hmm.
lot of countries know, okay, yeah, this is my place in the world, then let me not. Okay, theek hai, I'll punch beyond my weight once in a while. But here is a country that wants to punch at the weight of the US,
Hmm.
uh, you know, beg like anything else, and it's really funny. So coming to China, now China is also an interesting, you know, confused state of affairs, if I may. They are standing on our borders. Yes, fair enough. They're putting the kind of pressure that they think is putting India under a lot of stress, and fair enough. Okay, given. Let's give that 10% discount to the Chinese. They also write that they are also worried about what India is doing. They today claim India is the second largest threat to them after the USA, and they've actually downgraded the Japanese threat. Now, downgradation of the Japanese threat to me is very significant, sir, because the what the Japanese did to them, they've got terrible memories of them. What is
Absolutely.
this, sir? This is a very confused foreign policy, and this is just my analysis. You can rubbish me if you feel that it is not right, but this is something that I have picked up from China in the past some time. How do you analyze the Chinese positioning as far as India is concerned? And you also mentioned that they are, trying to change the narrative by just keeping the border away. What is this, sir?
See, Adi, I also went through a beautiful presentation which you had made regarding the two front war.
Sir?
which the China is also perceiving a two-front war. If Japan and only Taiwan and US is one their threat, the entire thing is a one-front war with a number of countries. But when the India is completely a different cup of tea. As you rightly told, in on 16th May 1959, the Chinese ambassador to India wrote that demarche to the foreign secretary by trying to say, we should not also have a two-front war. You should also not have a two-front war, and that is our meeting point. In 1959, he had thought of it. Now, coming to China in particular, China has its in 1949 October, soon after independence, the biggest threat which China perceived was a nationalist and US nationalist China from Taiwan and the
Hmm.
US combining together and launching an offensive into China. You won't believe they had made deep plans in order to let the US and the nationalist forces deep into their territory and then destroy them by cutting off their supply lines and their logistic backup and cutting them off the coast and then slowly destroying them over a period of years because they themselves have taken so many years and survived. From let's say from 1930 onwards, they have survived till 49. So it was not a quick war which they were anticipating. They had planned for this US, and US was also in South Korea. US was there in Japan,
Hmm.
and nationalists were Chiang Kai-shek was supported by the US. So they had only thought of the Eastern Front, and that is the time this particular statement was made by the Chinese ambassador. We don't want another front from you. You also have got a Western Front. You too do not have a front out here. So if you don't want two front and we don't want two front, and it is incumbent that the Sino-Indian border should be peaceful. That was what was running in his mind. But that Chinese say something and do something. Let's take in 1949. They 1949 they became independent. Within a year in 1950, same I think 6th or 7th October 1950, they launched their invasion across into Tibet. And the
Right.
Battle of Chamdo was fought on 24th October. And you know how the Tibetans lost and entire. But at the same time, they had also the People's Voluntary Force had entered and crossed the Yalu River at this point in time.
Yep.
So there were two fronts. It was not a proper, they called them irregulars, but the entire might, about 3 million men, served in the People's Voluntary Force. Yeah, yeah, by in the Korean Peninsula. It was a huge what you call effort from the Chinese side in order to fight against the UN and the US at that point in time. So, and then you come, let's say, take further. 1962, you have rightly said it, you know what, US, China got an assurance that US has no plans to invade China. And that was also the time when the missile crisis were there. They took the very logical historically to launch their offensive. And once the missile crisis was over, they withdrew, always fearing the US may intervene. Now, let us take the 1969 Usuri incident with the Russians. Not that US would come to help, but the US was involved in the Vietnam War.
Yes.
Let us take the 1974 capture and invasion of Paracels Island and fighting with the Vietnamese forces, destroying their part of forces. US had just come out of the Vietnam in 1973. Within a year, they would not come to support their own enemies whom they had fought. So it was a safe place. So whenever it went on an offensive, it calculated the time and place and then saw the international situation and then did it. You see, wise. Now come back to 1979 offensive against Vietnam. When offensive against Vietnam, there was a tacit understanding between Soviet Union, which was supporting Vietnam, that will not go beyond certain things and will not destroy the country. Or words to that effect, there was some understanding between China and the Soviet Union, though they were not in the best of friends at that point in time.
Hmm.
So they had managed their entire offensive. Only thing where they were successful, Adi, is from 1990s till 2010-12, when they did the creeping invasion of South China Sea and captured islets after islets and made those bases, made airstrips, made ports, and completely consolidated the South China Sea. That is the time I felt the US was sleeping. See, when it was coming slowly, so US did not really think what is the final plan, and it was US, the United States of America, which was sleeping. Now, coming to a particular question on third front, it's a two-front war. You know, in 90, let's take the Soviet Union. 1991, it had collapsed. US, it was ready. That time, Russia, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, was ready to join the US camp also as a camp follower. They
Hmm.
were economically devastated, militarily defeated. There was nothing left. They were ready to that. Instead of utilizing this unique opportunity to forge a Russia and US alliance and partnership, that is the time Reagan, foolishly though, started expanding the NATO to the discomfort of Russia. First, so he made a friend into an adversary. Now let us state the same foolishness as done by Xi Jinping. In spite of his occupation in the earlier stages, when Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi came, there was certain sort of chemistry relationship with them. It could have flourished without raising the border issue. And this unique partnership of China and India would have been definitely helpful to India and more definitely helpful to China as well.
Absolutely.
Instead of if did the same foolishness as the US did it for unnecessarily in May 2020 they came in the guise of exercise. Instead of going back, occupied the LAC, the no man's land between the LAC, and unnecessarily made a good friend into an adversary. Now, Mr. Xi Jinping, you'll rue the day you did it. Now, let us take their Eastern Pacific seaboard. South Korea has joined almost NATO extended partner. NATO headquarters has come into Japan. Most favored non-NATO allies, Japan. Taiwan is almost thinking of its independence, whether you like it or not. We know, and the greater rapprochement and a greater $1.3 billion deal of arms and weapons from US is coming to Taiwan.
Evan.
Philippines under Duterte was tried his best to be friendly with China. Marcos knew better, and he has reforged the alliances with US, and the US troops are stationed in Philippines. You see how the entire Western Pacific is heating up. Huh? And there is, the entire Taiwan Strait is being open and free. Indo-Pacific is this one. Quad is coming. What is Quad? Quad is trying to get militarized. Naval exercises are taking place. AUKUS has come to the discomfort of China. So the entire eastern front of China has got suddenly heated up to such a level. He finds, why the hell did I open another front against India? So you see how it has happened. The two front war, which Mao thought, but whatever, he took the opportunity and tried to, what you call, carried out an offensive against India. He thought he'll become another Mao. If you see the rise of Xi Jinping, he's trying to go in the lines of Mao,
Hmm.
in order to be that core leader, the one leader who is as famous or more than Deng Xiaoping to have the second spot after Mao in the hierarchy of Chinese history. So now what has happened? Now we will find that India is very inconvenient. We have also amassed 60,000 troops. We are strategic autonomy we are trying to get. We have got the Adni sits has come in. We have got lot of things means we are preparing. And this front has become very inconvenient for Xi Jinping, that is not able to have a face-saving withdrawal in order to bring peace here and concentrate his entire effort on his major front, where adversaries like Korea, Japan, Taiwan, and other supporters like Philippines, Australia, New Zealand, UK, all have joined on the other side. It is becoming a bit too hot for Xi Jinping from a security perspective.
This is the most interesting thing, sir, because they thought that they would put that kind of pressure on India and get some discounts from India with regard to what they, by we are the Asian giants. You are fair
Yes,
enough. We don't mind you taking the second place, but you can never take the first place. So you have to be subservient to us. So I want to ask you a small addendum to this particular question. You said that when Xi Jinping came to power, sorry, when Mr. Modi came to power and Xi Jinping came to power, it was 2 years difference. 2012,
yeah,
Mr. Xi and Mr. Modi was in 2014. Uh, a lot of writing within China said that this is a great opportunity, and a lot of people actually. This is a Global Times article also for anybody who wants to search it, that this is a great opportunity. This is probably for the first time both the countries have very strong and popular leaders
correct.
who could take the relationship forward. So there was that positivity. What went wrong here, sir?
See, it was simple. I fully endorse what you say. Rather, it started off, you see, Banaras, Gandhinagar,
Yeah.
Wuhan, Mamalipuram, all one-to-one relationship. We met him around 18 times in the first this one, and there was certain personal rapport which was built. But as you have asked me earlier, also a question. China is unpredictable and unreliable. Second, they are pathological liars. I will tell you later also if there is time. Right from the Chavan line, they have always put a Nehru in a comfortable place and struck him at some point in time. They made him comfortable, struck him, made him comfortable, struck him. And till the time he was physically, mentally, as a statesman, devastated after the 1962 defeat. Now, Xi, who is following Mao, he told, let us put these fellows at equal keel. And then his reality came into factor. We have to put, now we'll see what it is. And he struck in May 2020. And actually, if you really look, it took the entire Indian leadership by surprise.
True.
They never thought it would happen. Politically, they did not activate the army. You can say the army, why did we not take action in advance? There was neither the raw nor your cyber nor your anyone did give one input regarding the troops who came for a regular exercise on the Tibetan plateau would not go back, and at the point of de-induction will come and occupy the no man's land. So it was a well planned. It is, please do not consider it has then been done by the local commanders in order to curry favors with the Communist Party of China. No, it is a deliberate plan, planned by Xi. Xi thinks he is a Mao, and the same Chinese, huh? The left hand should not know what right hand is doing, and the right hand should not know what left hand is doing. That type of enigmatic maneuver did take place, for which I slowly, whatever global times may write, Xi Jinping's mind is thinking of being one of the greatest helmsmen of China next to Mao. So he thought he will be able to do it, and there won't be so much of response from China, from India. He miscalculated India's response. He thought he will occupy and thereafter it is the end. And he will be heralded as someone who has been able to subdue the southern neighbor.
You know, they say that I think you'll substantiate this. All military war plans go to the dust the minute the first bullet gets fired, and
Yeah,
here his plan
correct.
went to the dust without a bullet being fired. So
Absolutely, absolutely.
it,
Strategically, strategically they were outmaneuvered. They
yeah,
did not think it is. And of course, I'll never excuse Doval and Jaishankar party for vacating the Chushul Heights, that Kailash range. That was one thing which made China shake in their pants, because this particular range had such a radar observation right across to the General Highway 219 linking Xinjiang and Tibet.
yeah,
And this gave you the entire look inside the occupied part of the Aksai Chin. And for not much of gains, the way we vacated it, and with no cards left in our hands, now we are telling, please disengage, please disengage. Let's have thought for disengagement. So we have no cards left in our hands, and I think that is one. As per me, they may have their other perceptions. It mistake did occur.
sure. So the we spoke about the arrogance of Pakistan. Now I want to bring about the arrogance of China. I mean, recently we had the Shangri-La dialogues where the Chinese Defense Minister Li Shangfu he gave these very beautiful, rosy speech. I mean, if I was anyone, I would have given him a medal just for that. Uh, you know,
I heard it.
uh,
Mhm.
beautiful harmony, peace, tranquility. I don't know. Was he making them meditate there, or I am not sure. But the question that I want to ask you, jokes apart, is how come China is allowed, and I'm saying this very clearly, allowed by the world to speak in one language and act in a completely different language? For example, they talk about territorial integrity. Hello? I mean, how, how do they even have a right to do that? To talk about that? So, what is this? I mean, the belligerence is not lost on anyone, sir. How is the world accepting this?
That's true. It has been a history of China to
Sir,
do that. Now, let me just give you one or two things. June 1954, Chou Enlai visited. 29th April 54, we had signed that punch seal, one of the most decrepit bloody agreements.
stupidest thing. Yes,
Non-aggression,
absolutely.
sovereignty, respect, this one. I don't even want to mention it and waste the time of our listeners. One of the most, this one we signed. The
Absolutely.
heading of it was, India and Tibet, it was a part of China in the trade and intercourse, not the abandoned one. Trade and intercourse. This was also there. It with India and Tibet in bracket part of China. So on 29th April 1954, we accepted Tibet as a part of China already in written. Do you know that? Just all of you who have not seen, just see the text of the Trade and Intercourse Agreement signed between India and China on 29th of April 1954. 2 months later, Zhao comes and reiterates punch seal. One of the most humiliating documents. On return, he returns, and then he writes a letter that your troops are there at Uje, please get them removed. Uje is our Barahoti. 54, 55, 56, they do cartographic invasion of all our borders. Okay? When Nehru writes a letter on 23rd January 1959, they say we have not had time to look at all the maps and all. So we will be considering and discussing with you on all the maps. So there is no time. Give us some more time. This happened on 23rd January 59. Okay? So everything. And August 59 Longju incident where a Assam Rifles post was attacked and so many people were killed and wounded. When the thing is going on, already in the Subansri division, they had done it. Next month, you see, 8th September, they say we don't recognize the Matmon line.
Yeah.
Means this all happened once we foolishly signed that 1954 so and so, this happened.
Yeah.
Then they say we don't accept Matmon line. 1914 Simla Agreement between the British and Tibet and China, which Chinese signed and but they initialed but did not sign the final draft. Now they say that is a imperialistic document done unequal treaty. Okay, fine, unequal treaty, fine. But when it comes to the 1890 Anglo-Chinese Convention in Calcutta, in this the tri-junction between India, Bhutan, and China has been told as Gemoken, which needs to be considered by the other two countries also is there in the bracket, which has been reiterated in 2012. But from our point and Bhutan's point, the tri-junction is Batangla, further
Batango.
north, Batangla. Now, the same China, which had dismissed the 1914 Simla Agreement as imperialistic, is sticking to the 1890 Anglo-Chinese Convention and see, look at this treaty. This is we have decided. Yamochen is the what you call it, tri-junction, and hence we are making a road towards it, which was stopped by Indian armed forces in 2017. 1890 is accepted because it is good for them. 1914 not accepted because it is not in their favor.
Because they got
Whom
beaten
are
up
they
and they were made to sign.
whom are they trying to fool? Huh? So
Absolutely.
this
Absolutely.
country, I won't say all people, to blame a race is very wrong on my part. Chinese Communist Party culturally are pathological liars. You see wherever it is. These two treaty I have told you right what it is. Vajpayee as a foreign minister went in 1979, February visit as a foreign minister, not as a prime minister. And that is the time they carried out the offensive on Vietnam and it cut short his visit. Venkatraman went in May 92 as a president. And during his visit, there was a massive nuclear test which they carried out. So Venkatraman has to come back. You see the whole this. And then the famous speech which Li Shanfu gave. Now, the major points, you see how it is. He talks of openness. He is talking of openness by blocking the South China Sea. Then he talks of inclusiveness. Inclusiveness because he has captured the South China Sea. He wants Senkaku. He wants the Ladakh. That is his inclusiveness. Transparency. If anyone thought China is a transparent country, a person in a hospital will laugh so loudly that he'll be put in ICU because he'll not be able to control his laughter. China and transparency, where does it lead? Any sane person who has got whose IQ might be about 20, no, out of instead of 140, will not be able to digest that this particular China is transparent. Then he talks of equality. Then he talks of the rule of law. You know that UNCLOS, Permanent Court of Arbitration, where they told China has no claims on South China Sea. Huh? There he has rubbished that particular, and he talks of rule of law. Then he talks of peace, means he'll capture an area piece by piece. So there is nothing of Lee Sanfu which has said had any credibility with anyone who is seated in the Shangri-La dialogue, and any questions which were asked for him, he did not answer. This document was obviously written by some fellow in the Communist Party of China and given to him, and this poor man came and read it out. And he did not even know how to substantiate or how to fortify his statement with examples, and he kept silent. So it has been what you call a culturally of Chinese party, a Communist Party of China, to talk like this. Now let us take say I will give one or two examples what it is. Code of Conduct of South China Sea was first aired in 1992. In 2002, 10 years later, they signed a perfunctory document which is non-binding. And during the entire time, China wanted not multi agreement bilaterally. Means he will speak to Vietnam once, then he'll speak to Philippines, then he'll speak to Brunei one to one, then he'll speak to Malaysia, then he'll speak to Indonesia. He did not want a combined one during that time. That was a bit earlier. I was also the defense advisor in the High Commission of India, Kuala Lumpur. So there, it was all skepticism. So no one, what you call the non-binding portion of the Code of Conduct of South China Sea, 31 years after it was mooted, is still not signed. Meanwhile, he has what you call invaded the entire thing, captured all the islands, and he has fortified himself and blocked a international sea lane where 30% of the world trade flows. And he talks about peace and harmony. See, so no one is really taking China seriously. Yeah, it's except the three countries. I beg your pardon. One is North Korea, one is Laos, and one is Cambodia. These three countries may take him seriously, but I don't think there is a fourth nation, including Pakistan, who will take Chinese statements seriously. So that is the credibility of China. It is simple as that. I am giving you facts and figures.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Now, huh? Now I'll tell you. Now
Abs-
with Philippines, 3rd January, the Junior Marcos meets Xi Jinping. Okay, one to one they have a meeting and told we'll solve it, peace and all. 23rd January, Chinese Coast Guard come and attacks all the fishing boats of Philippines and pushes them back within 20 days after their meeting. The Indian side, 1954 use a punch shield, 1993 peace and tranquility, 1996 confidence measures, 2003 Vajpayee visited, 2005 strategic cooperation, partnership, and also political parameters. 2008 Manmohan Singh visited. 2010 Wen Jiabo visited and reiteration of political parameters. 2012, then 2013 defense cooperation. With all this, he came and in 2020 and captured the no man's land. So where is the credibility with China? Anyone believes in China of what they say? As you said, they do say something and do something. Please be prepared that the other things will be done and not what you have signed. Huh?
the
Treaties, they
opposite
have
will
no.
be done, sir.
So you should see what other things happen rather than this. So the world at large knows that China is absolutely cannot be relied upon. Its credibility is lowest. Even if it becomes the most powerful economically and politically, I don't think it will have willing supporters who will want to follow China and be its real allies. I don't think there will be any. So it doesn't have a world power status. It may have lot of money. It's like a like someone who has got lot of money but has no ethics. I don't think anyone will believe in.
It's like that gambler, who's got a lot of money, or a thief who's got a lot of money stashed away somewhere, but doesn't know what to do with it. You've
Mm.
mentioned something very interesting, sir, about China is the factor that it's not a world power, and
Yeah,
that is very interesting because it's trying to portray itself as the the next big boy in
yeah,
in in in, in the world, sir. Now, sir, we've covered a factor, and this is the last thing I'd like to ask you about how arrogant Pakistan is, how, for the lack of a better word, delusional the Chinese are under the megalomaniac leader. And I'm
Yeah,
being very
correct. Hmm.
specific in actually saying that. Uh, and we, on our part, I think only now have we realized that we are not dealing with normal countries,
Absolutely.
right? Only now. And I'm saying this very, very clearly. How do you deal with these kind of criminal organizations, if I may? Sir?
True. See, for this, first I'll deal a bit on Pakistan and then sum it up with
Sure.
China.
Sir.
There are many Indian people who say that say stable Pakistan is good for India. That is all rubbish. A unstable Pakistan, a bankrupt Pakistan, politically unviable Pakistan, and societally fragmented Pakistan,
Hmm.
geographically amorphous Pakistan is best for India. The moment they are stable, they will start they will be able to concentrate and do some mischief across the border. So it is in our, as it is, they are blaming you. So you should activate the Balochistan Liberation Army and give it all the financial, military, arms, ammunition support. There is already a Sindhu Desh Liberation Army in Sindh. Give it all. They are across the border. Well, we have got a border with them. Give them all the support of what is required in order to see break up Pakistan further. This is all in our interest, and this should be done. Whether you do it clandestinely or otherwise, I leave it to the policy makers. Okay, do all this, and then second is activate the entire western front of Afghanistan of Pakistan. Be friendly with Taliban, doesn't matter, and ensure that the Taliban has got enough arms, ammunition, weapons in order to activate the Afghanistan Pakistan border. Be friendly with Iran. It's that theory, what you call Kautilya's theory, the first circle and the second circle. The
Second
second
circle.
circle is Iran. Be very friendly with them and also ensure that they are able to whatever do their arming on their eastern front on and the Iran Pakistan border should be alive. If you do all this, you see the in case of an war, all this Baluchistan 12 crore, 21 crore, which all come against India from the western side, is pinned down on the western side, and what we
Hmm.
have to deal with are very, very what you call manageable force. So militarily, we would have crippled him if we activate his western front during a war with India. So that is the way. Obviously, keep them tied on all sides. That should be done. Then once we had an we had a discussion separately. Use water as a weapon. The
Yes.
entire waters of Indus Water Treaty of 1960. You can revoke this treaty because with a hostile country there are provisions. I have written an article also on this. There are provisions to revoke a treaty, though this our Nehru, very you are using the word deliberately foolishly though, has told this is a perpetual treaty. But when the circumstances are there, when that then execution of the treaty becomes unviable, this can be stopped.
Hmm.
There is a Geneva Convention also when the treaties can be rescinded. So use that provision and see that the treaty is rescinded and build infrastructure in order to channelize the waters because entire Indus, Jhelum, Chenab, the three rivers which are feeding Pakistan or they come through India, it is very easy for us to see that the waters, of course, lot of money would be required. We should build infrastructure in order to divert these waters into Rajasthan, Haryana, and Punjab. So that should be our what you call pressure point on Pakistan. The moment you misbehave, this infrastructure which I already laid will be activated, and we will starve you without water, and we will revoke the Indus Water Treaty of 1960. This is such a pressure point on Pakistan. It will ensure that they behave as per our requirement. We are not doing that, unfortunately. Then recently, about 3 4 days back, two carrier battle groups went
Mhm.
in the Arabian Sea, went close to the median line. So there is a possibility to blockade very easily without fighting a war. Though it will be considered as an act of war, so be it. To literally starve Pakistan and see its entire trade is jeopardized. These are the things which are available. It only requires political will. I am not trying to say you should do it right now, but the political will should be there in order to exercise our force and ensure that the Pakistan behaves and is not an impediment in pursuit of our national interest. So this has to be done. And lastly, a minor tactical thing which I'd say: whenever the terrorists come across the line of control, LOC, and we know where the place is, ensure the two posts on either side of the infiltration is destroyed. Yeah, whatever way, means whatever you want to do, ensure. So the post itself will say, "Don't send terrorists from my area." So this is at the tactical level. These are the things which we should do, and there is no cooperation. It is only coercion which we should do with Pakistan, because that is the only language they understand. Now come to China. Our Mr. Jaishankar saw points, lie, innuendos, huh? Meaning something and telling something, subtle and indirect, indirect sallies at China. This doesn't work with China. So it doesn't. A country is expansionist. Which country you won't say? So China will never say I am expansionist. These things will not work with. The way to work with China is look into their eyes and say you are a expansionist power. That's the way the China will behave. Now we have got lot of points, cards which we can utilize against China.
Mm.
Huh? Firstly, we say what you call relations with China is not normal till disengagement takes place. Why have you diluted it? We should say status quo ante April 2020 takes place. That's the time we will have normal relations. They will just disengage and you'll start talking to him with the still the area in their occupation. So we to say is clear status quo ante April 2020 for our normal relations to function. Simple as that. We should not dilute our this one. Then we have to now China is blaming us for that May incident by telling. So I have written it in number of my articles. What the foreign ministry should do is take the imageries of the line of Ladakh, LAC, on April 20th and on May 10th, and show it to the UN. See, April 20th or this, May 10th, they have come and they are blamed. Let them be exposed, not it's they who did it. It doesn't mean anything. You have got a solid proof. 20th April to 10th May, who has invaded, who has captured what is very clearly done there.
True.
Then he say what you call we have to that $100 billion favorable trade which China is having with us. We have to see that the trade is reduced, because this is the one we have to find alternative supply lines for uh, our raw materials and other things which are in which we are dependent on China. If we don't do that, it doesn't matter to China whether there's a normal relations or not.
Mm.
Second, we have got common border with Xinjiang and also Tibet. We have to ensure that the East Turkmenistan Liberation Front is financed, weapons, ammunition, everything is given to them. and ensure and put this entire Xinjiang in absolutely incendiary situation. Tibet has never been a part of China. Where is the Great Wall of China? It doesn't encompass Tibet. If it encompassed Tibet, yes, it was their heartland. It was never their heartland. And ensure the insurgency also starts in Tibet. We have got 3,000 kilometers of border. Arms, ammunition, weapons have to be put across. And the insurgency has to be festered, sustained, and propelled and aided, supported diplomatically, militarily, everything should be done. Let us see how China will not listen to us. Then also support Hong Kong in its freedom movement. Then Taiwan. What did China did to Pakistan? Gave them nuclear weapons. We have got the entire document that I have written on it. I don't want to say. Gave them nuclear weapons. Gave them they gave them a proper Lopnor. They conducted their experiment. Give them the paper, what you call designs and diagrams. They were given. Ring magnets were given in order to see they become a nuclear power. Now, why are we waiting? We should do the same thing with Taiwan.
Hmm.
If Taiwan becomes a nuclear power, let us say China ever thinking of also liberating them, so-called their liberation, invading them. When we have got a good reason, you did it to Pakistan, we are you're doing it to Taiwan.
Taiwan.
Tit for tat. Whether you do it clandestinely or openly, I leave it to you. This one. Give BrahMos missiles. You are giving it to Vietnam. You are giving it to Philippines. Give it to Taiwan. Huh? Then revoke your one China policy. Say no, no, no. Unless you reiterate one India policy, no one China policy. We go and parrot one China policy. Who the hell? It's not one China. It's two China policy. Then, and just imagine, just about 10 days back, I think, China made a statement. It brutes no third party intervention in the Sino Indian border dispute. Who the hell is China to tell us? But Indians also have gone into the deep state. We thought bilateral with Pakistan. Why we thought of bilateral with Pakistan? Because July 1972 Simla Agreement, we have told we'll sort out the J&K issue bilaterally. That's why we do bilateral. But who the hell has told you to do bilateral with China? And who the hell is China to tell you we'll only do bilateral? And why are you accepting the Chinese version that we'll
Hmm.
do bilateral? I'll do a multilateral, multilateral, multilateral. I'll fight on my own. That's fine. I got enough strength to fight. But why should I deal with the China bilaterally on the border aggression?
Correct.
Huh? We are doing means bilateral in our MEA fellows. There is a channel made one strat bilateral. They will do bilateral with everyone. Hooray, with Pakistan, there is a treaty. With China, there is no treaty. Why are you going bilateral? Huh? Then India should join the Quad and work towards Quad becoming a military, it's a security alliance.
Hmm.
And add clause 5 of the NATO also in it. You know what is clause 5 of NATO? That anyone attacks one country, the other 30 countries will consider that's an attack on themselves.
On themselves.
So do they means whatever they can modify. I'm just telling you from the right,
Get
right,
some,
right.
yeah,
Huh?
security
Then
guarantees, sir.
yeah, then join AUKUS. What is the problem? Join AUKUS. Join the NATO plus. Now make China miserable in terms of instead of doing bilateral, NATO plus will come. We will caucus everything. Huh? Fighting we will do, but we'll be taking all arms, ammunition, technology, everything from all the powers across the world in order to fight with you. Befriend, and be nice and be good diplomatic relation with the Central Asian republics, especially Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Kazakhstan. They are all border issues with China. All the three have got border issues. So we should take them into our orbit. Mongolia is already in our orbit. But never lose the friendship of Russia, because you don't want China and Russia to team up. We have
Yes.
a friendly traditional relationship with Russia is to be maintained under all circumstances in order to prohibit China and to isolate China. Because now even when USA fights with China, there is Russians who are supporting. But when India fights with China, Russia will not support China. That is what we should ensure. But this is what we should work towards. Then increase your offensive capability. You have to have thermonuclear weapons. You cannot demand on a fission bomb only. You should have thermonuclear weapons of megaton yield, because coercive power, even when you don't use it, your coercive power should be there. Then Adni 6 and Adni what 5 and Adni 6, but all this Adni 6 also the experimentation has taken place, but under the guise of Adni 5. It's around 8,000 kilometers. We have to do it.
Yes, sir.
Raise the second mountain core and ensure that you are prepared to fight a two front war in terms of arms, ammunition, weapon, long call, but work towards it for a 90 days period. If you do all this and then negotiate with China, you are doing it from a position of strength.
Strength.
Yeah. So you have to put China in its place. You just can't say no, relations are not normal. Huh? But I will give you annually $100 billion of trade, so don't worry. We can't do that. Huh? So we have to find alternative supply lines and shake out our dependence on China.
Yes,
Small,
sir.
small things we have. You go to Amazon. I hope that someone is listening to me, Amazon. Half the things are also made in China. Don't buy those Chinese product. We all say, go which is the cheapest and star and we go. I always first see which is the place of origin and then you buy.
Yes. I always do
Yeah,
that, sir.
yeah. Our 1.4 billion people have to work in tandem in order to see the China is isolated from the
Yeah.
individual side, from the country side, from the societal side and diplomatic side. We have to do it. That's the way we can deal with China.
Absolutely, sir. As a matter of fact, you mentioned East Turkestan. I spoke to the Prime Minister in exile, Saleh Hudiyar. He's based in Washington, and I spoke to him about this. So he also was quite frustrated. He said, we keep asking people for help, nobody gives it. And India and the East Turkestan region is age old. I mean, he says, you guys don't realize you've sacrificed us, but the Great War of Mahabharata was fought on our land. So please, we are part of your subcontinent. So please don't forget us. And it was a very emotional sort of a appeal that he made on the channel. It was a fantastic interview. Sir, thank you so much. This is a eye opener, and if I may, a slap to all these arrogance around India and uh, sometimes within India as well. I guess, but I must say this, sir. From the first time we spoke with regards to India China and where we are today, there is a marked difference. And somewhere down the line, I feel that it is obviously people like yourself and many others who speak about this, who write about this, which obviously is going to some places and people are making changes with regards their policies. India is a slow country, and that's something that we need to change as citizens. We need to demand that change. We need to not accept a slower, very steady sort of an approach. There has to be jhatkas, there had to be jerks, and if I may, surprises given to our adversaries as well. Thank you so much for reminding us as a generation that we must never forget our history of the Artha Shastra, the Chanakya and the Chanakya Niti. Uh, it's always a pleasure talking to you, sir, and learning from you. And I really, really request we can do another one very shortly so that the process of learning continues. Thank you so much, sir, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, Adi. I am privileged. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir.